Hey everybody, welcome back to another Halloween movie review. In today's video, I'll be covering a classic. One of my favorites. I remember watching this as a kid. I thoroughly enjoyed it. To this day, I consider it one of my, as far as non-superhero related uh, films, uh, the movie Clue. Uh, when it came out, um, 1985 movie, and star-studded cast. You got Elaine Elaine Brennan as Mrs. Peacock. Tim Curry, the great Tim Curry, plays Wadsworth, the butler. Madeline Kahn as Mrs. White. Christopher Lloyd as Professor Plum. Michael McKean as Mr. Green. Martin Mull as Colonel Mustard. Leslie Ann Warren as Miss Scarlet. Colleen Camp as Yvette. And Lee Ving as Mr. Body. Man, I rewatching this really makes me want to play the board game because, matter of fact, since they have like the game Uno and Monopoly as video games you can play with your friends as like a party kind of game, I want to look up if they made like a Clue game so you can play with your friends because a lot of those, but it's nothing beats actually having like an actual physical board game because that used to be like a fun family friends activity where you can get nice some alcohol and like some food and you just have like a gathering and you have like a game night or something and you just get like a bunch of board games together and you just have like a great time with your friends playing like Monopoly or Clue. And like, man, I remember having Clue. I think one of my relatives had the board game. I think one of my cousins. uh uh I remember playing as a kid, and like, oh my god, playing board games was pretty dope. Uh, it still is dope if you actually, tear away from your phone devices and all this other stuff. Just have like a moment separated from that where you can just physically play uh, that. I think I put Wii Sports on that list, even though it's not a board game. I think it's a nice party game with your friends. I played Uno with my friend Anita via uh, PlayStation online because she lives in all the way in like Vegas and I'm here in Chicago, and she bless her heart always remember my birthday last year uh, she and I played some Uno together and Dead by Daylight, just having a grand old time. And she's a very lovely person, just A-list type of individual. Uh, but the movie I have such a reverence for, and of course it's been made like been parodied many times, but this movie never gets old. As a matter of fact, it's because of movies like this during like late 70s into the 90s where they kind of revitalized the kind of creepy house slash mansion aesthetic, like Haunting of Hill House kind of situation. Uh, the movie begins. It's raining. It's 1958. It's like, you know, like at least a decade after the events of WW2. So uh, Wadsworth arrives. Got the cook and the maid Yvette. Uh, setting everything up for some guests. In comes, this is like a funny comedy show. Did y'all know? Just a side note. Did y'all know they're making like a Uno movie? I think like Lil Uzi is like helming the film, and it's like it's supposed to be a heist film. Like, how do you make a heist film with Uno? Like where does the draw four comes into play in that kind of thing? It doesn't make any freaking sense. I'm just waiting for that to just be entirely scrapped because it doesn't seems so nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. Uh, but so yeah, we got like some guests coming in: Mr. Plum, Mr. Green, Colonel Mustard, Mrs. Peacock, Miss Scarlet, uh, Mr. Body, Mrs. White, Peacock. And they all show up, and is revealed after this funny moment in the dining room where they're like eating and drinking. Uh, is revealed that they all had some association with Washington D.C., and some association with some kind of government uh, job. So they go to the lounge area, and Wadsworth reveals that they all been invited here. After Mr. Body shows up, they all been invited here because they're all being blackmailed in some way. Uh, uh, is revealed that Ms. Peacock is accused of taking bribes for her husband, who's a U.S. senator. Uh, 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 Mrs. White's former husband, or late husband, I should say, uh, was a nuclear physicist who she is suspected of killing, but denies like the allegation. Mr. Plum lost his medical license as a therapist due to a scandal, uh, uh, as it was insinuated he had like an affair with one of his patients. Miss Scarlet runs an underground brothel in DC, but she flaunts. She was very like flaunty with her, like I guess given the what she does for a living, she's kind of like that kind of personality is very extrovert. It was like gladly flaunts that had no shame in her game with the profession she leads. They got Colonel Mustard, who initially suspected of, you know, uh, being one of Miss Scarlett's clients, but the more pressing issue he has is that uh, he's suspected of being like a war profiteer by selling plane parts to, the black market, which resulted in uh, several deaths in the war for the U.S. allies, which not the out of all these people who had been suspected of doing anything wrongdoing, I think he's probably the most uh, uh, what he did is probably a little bit more vile, but I want to say like he did it like and he's flaunting it and like Miss Scarlet or anything like that, but he's just like you can see the shame of Martin Mull's face, which is great acting on his part. You can see like the utter shame, like oh my god, like I'm not too proud of this. He got a little greedy, and like so the parts that resulted in deaths of allies. And Mr. Green admits that he's a homosexual, and if any of that got out, then the State Department would fire him. And it's funny how like things turn out, because like that back then would be a scandal, like because the homosexual community was like horrifically uh, even somewhat to this day, but not as much as it was like say early 90s to like way back in the day, where there was like a lot of hate against the homosexual community or LGBT plus community in general, where a scandal like that would cause him to lose his job because it was that progressive or outwardly fighting for. I mean, there was quite some, but not as much as it would be now. And once they revealed, like you see, like Mr. Plum, Professor Plum, getting up after he sat down, and I admit, I still kind of laugh at this, but I admit, like I did chuckle when that happened, as he got up and like because he doesn't want to be you know, near like a gay man, or like he got cooties or something like that. And it's playful laughs. It's still funny, but it's we know better now than we did back in the '80s when this was like a humorous thing. But it can still be played as humorous, but just a little bit more understanding. But like I mentioned in a previous video, that the reason why South Park is so good because they poke like in good comedians in general, they poke fun at everybody. What I would not respect from somebody like a comedian or a movie that's playing to satire or whatever, what I would not respect from them is that they play favorites. If That's why like I did not care for the crap that Dave Chappelle got from the trans community, because you may not like it, and you have the right to not like it, but don't attack him for it being a professional comedian, because like South Park, everybody gets a shot. Okay, the issue is the ones they do not give a shot to. That's when they start playing favorites, and that's when we're not respect. But everybody gets a shot. And I bet you dime a dozen, dollars to donuts, that, whoever joke that Dave was lobbing at before they got to them, I'm pretty sure they was laughing their ass off very, much. Any black jokes, any left wing or right wing jokes, any Asian community jokes, you know, uh, just whatever that Dave Chappelle comes up with, I'm pretty sure they all laughed their ass off at. But when it was their turn, now they got up in arms about it. And it's like, that's not right. Okay? He's a comedian, he's a professional, and you know, comedy is comedy. You don't like it, you don't like it. Sometimes it falls flat, sometimes it's freaking hysterical. And you gotta let comedy be what it is, whether you like it or not. You don't have to tune in to Dave Chappelle. If you said something that offended you, you have the right to be offended. You don't have the right. I mean, you have the right to not like it. Just don't support him, or just don't watch him. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be your thing anymore because you felt hurt about what he said. Or you can tell how you don't appreciate that, but you do not go around canceling him or giving him all this grief. Just don't subscribe to him. You don't have to be in association or like anything he does from that moving forward. But that's my take on it. Like this, yeah, it's pretty damn funny. Professor Plum just getting up was like, people being all nervous around him. But that was just one moment that they did that. And that was that joke, and there was another joke where Yvette needs somebody to look after her, and Colonel Mustard and Professor Plum was like, I will, and Mr. Grant was like, no, thank you. That part still gets me. It's just the perfect timing of Michael McKean's just no, thank you. God, that gets me. That's so funny. So they acknowledge it. They they put in a smart joke, and they leave it be. They don't harp on it. All throughout the film. That's where it'll be kind of a hate thing. They didn't harp on it. All throughout the movie. They do it at least 2-3 times at the most, maybe, but they don't let it linger, or they don't do it back to back. They surprise you with it, and it's like you catch you in a false sense of security, and all they get you. But what else? And then Wadsworth admits, or at least just points out, because everyone's wondering, okay, what about Mr. Body? What's he being blackmailed for? Oh, you haven't figured it out already? He's the one that's blackmailing you, and everybody's ready to jump him. And then Colonel Mustard, who is a military man who should know how to freaking fight, but he is beat by some Three Stooges antics from Mr. Body, which is like, and then starting getting proceedingly stomped on by this dude. It's like, dude, yeah, sure, you might have like a slight beer belly, maybe, but you should be able to handle yourself being a military person who's probably been trained in hand-to-hand combat. Should take down this guy fairly easily. And you get him put down by Three Stooges antics. That's just like wow to me. But uh, Wadsworth points out that the police, he already informed the police they'll be here in 45 minutes. And this whole entire conversation has been recorded. It's being secretly recorded. So he tells everybody, like, you all won't be able to, y'all won't face any prison time. You just confess and like, and then Mr. Body will be behind bars. But Mr. Body is like, okay, I got y'all. So he gets his briefcase that he came in with and pulls out these mysterious boxes. And each has a deadly weapon. You got a revolver, a knife, lead pipe, wrench, rope. I think that's it. Oh, and a candlestick. And he mentions that he's going to cough the lights. And if one of you kills Wadsworth now, then our little secrets will remain between the seven of us. So he cuts up the lights, and a gun goes off. The lights turn on, then Mr. Body's body is on the ground, seemingly dead. And so now there's a race to figure out who killed Mr. Body before the police arrive. But then they took it. They noticed that there was no gunshot wound because there's a bullet hole in the wall. But then they suspect he might have been poisoned because of the brandy. And like Miss Peacock is freaking out. And this kind of reminds me of the movie. Well, I think this did it before the movie Airplane, because the movie Airplane came out 3 years after this in '88, where Miss Peacock is freaking out like the woman in Airplane freaks out, like, I gotta get out here, I gotta get out here. Calm down, you're gonna be all right, smack. And it's like, sorry, you got a phone waiting. There's a phone call waiting for you, smack. Like, everything's gonna be all right, smack. And there's a line. Oh God, I love that freaking movie. It's so doggone funny. Then in this, Mrs. Peacock's freaking out because he thinks she's being poisoned, and then Mr. Green sits her down and smacks her, and shocking everybody. I had to stop her from screaming. This guy is so stupid. It's like this whole entire thing is so freaking stupid. Oh, I love it though. But then they hear a scream. Then it turns out to be Yvette, who was doing the recording in like the pool room, the pool hall room, and because she freaking out because she also like drunk from the cognac. On the way back, they realize like Mr. Body's body is gone. So now they race into the kitchen because they figure like the only other person in this house that wasn't with us is the cook. So they go to the kitchen. They find the cook's dead body with the knife in the back, and it's like, they suspect Mrs. Peacock, but it's like, I put it down. Anybody could have picked it up. So Wadsworth takes all the weapons, put it in the cupboard, and lock it with the key in his pocket because, okay, there's a maniac running around amongst us. So they all agree to like have that key be thrown out of the house, and they bump into this motorist who says like his car broke down and he just needs to use the phone. So they bring him in, put him in a different room so he can call, I guess, AAA. Is this at the time, or at least something, to come help him with his car while it's like pouring rain. So they decide, okay, we need to split up so that way we can cover the entire grounds, so we can figure out what happened. Uh, well, they end up finding Mr. Body's body in the bathroom, but you know, showing that he's dead this time, and because he got like a, he was obviously hit on the head and he's bleeding from his head, and uh, funny moment with Tim Curry because he's in there screaming because everybody's just freaking out at this point. And it's like, why are you shouting? I'm not shouting. Okay, I'm shouting. I'm shouting. I'm shouting. I'm shouting. And it's somehow the candlestick. Somebody put the candlestick above like the little border, like the uh, what you call it, the top of the doorway thing, and it just falls over and hits him on the head. God, it gets me every time. So they decide, okay, we'll break into teams, break into pairs, and they'll search the grounds all through the house. So uh, 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 while they were searching, a mysterious person comes up and kills the. Well, they take they because Wadsworth seemingly like just threw the key out the doorway, but some mysterious person opens up the cupboard, takes out the weapons, and uses one of them to bludgeon the motorist to death after he was talking to somebody, some mysterious person on the phone, saying like, I'm in a strange house, and these people are acting weird, and one of them looks like my old boss. And then he got bludgeoned to death, and then the phone just, the mysterious person hangs up the phone. And they later find the motorist bludgeoned to death. So Yvette, uses the gun to get the door unlocked, that Scarlet and Mustard is trapped behind. And they come to realize somebody like must have switched out the key from Wadsworth's pocket before he threw an entirely different key out the door during the whole point when they bumped into the motorist. So now they go back and search. Before that, like a cop show up. Not the ones that's supposed to be showing up. At this point, it's probably going to be like at least half the 45 minutes they were originally waiting. And he informed them about like a car breaker down the road, and they put on this little front that they're having like this big shindig, and he seemingly believes it, and so he goes to use the phone and he points out like J. Edgar Hoover is on the phone, and so Wadsworth at that point like takes the phone, and Mr. Green shows the cop in different rooms while everybody else setting up to make it seem like they're having like this big old party, so that way he won't be suspecting anything. So the cop, seemingly fooled, goes to use the phone, and as he's talking to somebody on his end, saying like these people are acting strange, a mysterious person comes up behind him with the wrench and bludgeons him to death. All the while, the lights were turned out. And everybody races and convenes together. And I love this moment where they just like, it's been a long night, and they don't even react at this point. They just like go in each room, see, during the lights was out, a single telegram woman comes up. And when I first saw this, even to this day, every time I see this seems so out of nowhere, out of place. It's like, okay, what kind of moment? And it's, happy perky singing telegram lady. I am the singing telegram. Boom! And she gets killed by the revolver. Just like, holy, okay, what? is happening at this point? So everybody's convening. They see this dead singing telegram. They see the dead cop. Oh, and Yvette gets killed. She seemingly was working with this mysterious killer in the first place, but she gets like, oh, she's outlived her usefulness, so they use the rope to strangle her to death. Uh, so they all convene. They see Yvette's dead body. They see, which by the way, Yvette in this was so hot. I mean, it's like, of course, it's the maid outfit, kind of like accentuates everything, but in that very exaggerated, thick French accent. But she was extremely hot. Uh, uh, you see her dead body. You see the cop's dead body. You see the singer Telegram's dead body, and it's revealed that the singer Telegram used to be one of uh, Mr. Plum's, Professor Plum's patients, and the very girl that he had the affair with. So Wadsworth, at this point, concludes uh, who he knows is the killer at this point. So he the third act is very good, uh, uh, but this entire film is just like from start to finish is like very great writing. Not many movies based off of like games or even board games specifically turn out that well. Uh, uh, because they try to do like Battleship and like uh, I forget like another board game type of movie, but it did not work out too well because the premise didn't make any freaking sense. But I think like Detective Pikachu, I know it's video games, but it's still counted as games in general. And I suspect the Super Mario movie, despite the Chris Pratt part of it, will probably do well. But Detective Pikachu, the recent Mortal Kombat movie, I think aside from the main character, I think everything else works pretty damn good. Uh, 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 the first two Resident Evil films, the live action ones, are pretty solid. And Clue, I think, is pretty solid of a game movie. Even though it's board game related, I think it qualifies. But the third act really hits home here, where they're going back and forth with this jingle of a tune playing. Everybody just chasing Wadsworth from one room to another, and like repeating the stuff that we've seen before, recounting everybody, and down to the tiniest details, like Mr. Green slapping Mrs. Peacock, and like mimicking him, like, I gotta stop her from screaming. Tim Curry was amazing, and this is by far. I know people love Pennywise, his role as Pennywise, and like the first It movie, but I think this is my first introduction to Tim Curry. Tim Curry. The next movie, aside from cartoons that I heard his voice in, I think the other movie I seen Tim Curry in was the other Tim Curry thing was in Scary Movie 2. But this was my first introduction into the actor. He was extremely funny. It was like by far my favorite Tim Curry thing, and his performance in this is like top notch. And he recounts everything from start to finish, and he ultimately because there's like secret passageway, they point out that the killer used in order to get by everybody, and he points out that like Yvette was working with the killer. That's what. But as soon as he outlives her usefulness, she gets off because we can't have any loose ends at this point. But he then explains, okay, the gun is still missing, so whoever has the gun is the killer. So tells all the guys to empty your pockets, the ladies empty your purses, and then Miss Scarlet shows her a gun. Like, okay, everybody, like stop where you are. So before we continue, I wanted to point out that this movie had a very unique twist, because I don't think any movie has done something like this from my recollection. But when this was airing in the theaters, which by the way, you know, it didn't do well in the theaters of that time, but it became like a cult classic and like a very well regarded film uh, uh, from henceforth. But no, while it was playing in the theaters, each theater got three different endings. And of course, when this came out on tape, then later DVD, it uh, it included all different endings. It's kind of like how it should have ended YouTube series. Uh, this did it first. If you ever watched the YouTube series He She, Clue did it first before them, and it's like you got these. This is how it would have ended. So it's three different. Each theater had three different endings, and nobody knew which one was the actual ending until you later seen it on DVD or TV. So uh, at first you think it's Miss Scarlet, but there's that's just an alternate thing. But they give what really happened out of the three. I'm not going to tell you this because you think Miss Scarlet did it, but that's just an alternate. That's what you think at first until they give you the other two endings. One of them being possible. They'll let you know which one is the real one, but it's just all fun. But I'm gonna leave that as a surprise to you guys because I'm just like in the theaters way back then, way before I was even born. Uh, it's like a nice surprise for everybody. So if you haven't watched the movie Clue, if you can't find it on just cable in general, you can definitely watch it on Amazon Prime. I think it's playing there. If you can rent it for like at least a couple of dollars and you can watch it for a couple of days, but it's very good. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people at that time, like when it came out, had their little issues with it. Of course, it had a budget of 15 million and it only came out with the box office with 14.6 million. But man, it was like it's dynamite. It's uh the cast was like the chemistry between the cast members was like spot on. It's one of the best kind of game movies. But I guess the issue they had at the time was like the weird endings. But I don't understand why anybody would have a problem with that. I think it's extremely clever. But maybe some of the jokes didn't fall too well with most people, but like you gotta give this a chance. This is like very good. Nice little. You got one central localized area where the film is focused on, and like the only different uh, uh, scenes that you see that's not in like it's just different parts of the house. It's just like the board game. It's like the main focus is different parts of the house, and you only get like rare occasions of what's going on outside the house. But man, it's very well done. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Nice little who's done it kind of thing. It's probably the best who's done it film out of all the who done it kind of films that try to play to that motif. But if you have seen the movie Clue, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the film. And don't forget to leave a like and hit the notification bell. Share this with your friends. Uh, which character was your favorite? Oh, I love Mrs. White. Mrs. White's little mini rant towards like the third act, where she's like that little speech about like the flames. The flames was flaming up. It's like a spark. That little moment, all improvised. She did that, and it's like I'm glad they kept it in. It's one of those things with as actors, you gotta like when you take a risk like that, you go with your gut. Sometimes it plays well, sometimes it doesn't. You never know until you get that kind of gut feeling and you just go with it. And it's like I loved it. It is so funny. my favorite Mrs. White moment. And like everybody has their moments in this, and it's like I every it's like a great director who has like a not only a star-studded cast, but like it was like several people you got to focus on, and you got to give each one like a equal amount of time. And this one it works because you don't have any kind of outside distractions beyond like the motorist or the cop. Even though they're kind of like surprise moments that really keep like the characters on their toes. Uh, which plays more to the hilarity and like the stress of the situation, because you don't want any other people getting killed because there's a murder among them. But yeah, I man, but like the Russos and like James Gunn, you know, because uh, they're like the top directors right now that knows how to balance, at least in film, several characters and each one get their fair share of screen time and lines and their great scenes. And this movie was directed by Jonathan Lynn. Uh, uh, Cause I think he's still alive, but uh, he did movies like My Cousin Vinny, The Distinguished Gentleman, Sergeant Bilko, The Whole Nine Yards, uh, Fighting Temptations, and then like back in 2010, 10 years, just 10 years ago, the last movie he did, Wild Target, which I haven't seen, but like, yeah, I'm surprised he did My Cousin Vinny. Uh, uh, so yeah, he had some classic movies under his belt. So yeah, but yeah, this is a phenomenal film, and it's a shame that critics at the time didn't appreciate it when it came out. But you never know. Things you never know. It might turn into like a huge hit uh, later in life. That's why when that the movie Bros, one of the lead actors, Billy something, made that kind of broad statement because, oh, those who didn't show. I know he didn't say this like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I was like, oh, those who didn't show out, like speaks to uh, their homophobia or something like that, and it's like, yeah, there's might be a fringe group of people who didn't see the movie because they're homophobic, but others that didn't see it, by and large, probably doesn't feel like it was their jam, or other things come up and they don't have that kind of time to go to see this film. There's a myriad of things that could be the reason why it didn't produce the kind of like uh, hits that you were expecting when it came out. But you never know, this might turn into one of those cult classics after it leaves the theater. You don't know. You gotta give it a chance, because from what I've heard, people who did go see it think highly of it. So it's like, just give it and besides, competing with movies coming out in October that's kind of horror thing related, and you're a rom-com, so it's like you got that working against you. So it's like it probably would have been better suited that you let this come out during like February, when like those rom-com type of films would probably be a little bit more people would be more gravitating towards that, because I think the horror movie Smile is doing very well as far as like the best horror movie coming out in October right now. So that's that. So you shouldn't be painting that broad statement like that. Just give it time. It didn't turn out as much as you want initially. It might be just like, because the same director as Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think, did this Bros movie. So like he has like tons of cult classics underneath his belt that's he's very well renowned in. So like it'll just be one of those classics as well. So Clue, another cult classic, even though it didn't do well initially, boom, it's a mega hit. Like when people think of Clue, it got nothing but nice things to say. But anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm gonna do like a double versus discussion. I was doing plan on doing one tonight, but you know, I gotta take care of some stuff, so I'm gonna leave for a double feature for a versus discussion that I haven't done one since March. So look forward to two videos for that back to back, and yeah, then definitely before October ends, I'll have the third and final season of Danny Phantom to review. It's relatively shorter than the other two seasons, so I should be able to get to it fairly quickly. But that and I might be able to squeeze in an extra because I got one comic book review for the month of October I want to put out, horror centric, but I might be able to fit in maybe one more. We'll see. But yeah, and yeah, still got how many? Uh, one, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, I still got six other uh, movies that I want to put in for this month. So we got 2 weeks left of the month of October. I should be able to fit them all in. Hopefully I can squeeze in that other comic book I just thought about because it's coinciding with one of the uh, films. But anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Uh, I'll try to get back to Octopath Traveler soon this weekend. But anyway, take care. Be safe.